What is good, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrestling with Fans podcast. This is a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for fans from a fan's perspective. My name is Kyle. This is episode 214, the Dirty Saudi Blood Money review, and I got a very special guest we're going to bring on the show right now. Ricky, what is good, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, Kyle?
So, for those that don't know, I'll let you intro yourself. Plug whatever you got, like your YouTube channel, all that good stuff. So, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Rick Ham. Work from Gamic Nerdia. We got Rick Ham reviews on YouTube. You can find them under Ham Reviews, and Ham makes videos, and then also Gamic Nerdia on Twitch and YouTube as well. But yeah, long-time wrestling fan.
So I'll make sure we put the links to his YouTube channel and stuff down in the comments when this goes live. But today we are reviewing Dirty Saudi Blood Money 5, aka Crown Jewel. We just finished watching it about 45 minutes ago, so we are now set to talk about this show. Now, Rick, you have not watched WWE in quite a while.
It might have been a year and a half, 2 years actually, that I kind of fell out.
So you're coming into this fresh,
yeah,
with not much backstory on everything. You're watching fresh, so it would be a good counter perspective. Where I've been watching, I'm repping my OC shirt today, and you're coming in fresh, so it'll be interesting dynamics. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. I'm just closing up some windows here so we make this work out really, really good. I'm super happy with this. So it's nice to finally have someone to play off of. Now the show, and let me pull this up. See, this is what happens when you're not fully prepared. So it just took place. It just finished up from the Mersul Park in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And of course, it was the big Logan Paul Roman Reigns main event. But we're going to run down the show in chronological order. We started off with the Brock and Bobby Lashley match.
Yeah.
Now, when we were watching, I kind of told you, I was like, this is like a typical Brock match. Like, unlimited finishers are on. Two beefy boys slapping meat. And they pretty much delivered everything that I expected it to be. What did you think?
I thought it was fine. I think we're getting to a point now where Bobby Lashley looks like the same match every time we see it. Brock Lesnar, at least when he's mixing it up with smaller guys, they were able to do different things and tell a different story. But unfortunately, for so many years, when it comes to these kinds of matches, they really start to feel the same. You can almost call the spots as they come. With the exception of the shot through the wall. That looked really good, but that always looks good. So it's nice to mix those kinds of things in. I'm over Lashley's spear. I think that looks silly. I don't like the roll through thing. I think it makes it look soft. But other than that, yeah, it was just two beef guys just being beefy.
Yeah, we were talking about this while watching it. It's that flip. It doesn't look good. Like usually, your guys like your Goldbergs, your Edge. I'm trying to think who else was really big with the spear. Rhino with the gore.
Oh, yeah.
You drive through the guy like it's a football tackle. Lashley, it's like as soon as he touches him, he does a forward flip, and it looks very weak. And guys will sell it like they got shot by a cannon, but realistically, it just. I'm like you. I'm not buying it. I don't think it's that big of a move. I don't think it's, very vicious looking, but the guys try to sell it as best they can. And, kind of one of those is what it is things.
And my feelings from it also, from when I was watching Bobby Lashley just not too long ago, what they were doing with the Hurt Locker and everything, he was pretty well protected in everything that he was doing. He felt stronger with people around him. I think it made him look stronger as well. And him out there all alone with Brock Lesnar almost felt like he was maybe smaller than I remember him, I think. Like almost coming back into it, I'm looking at Bobby Lashley going, I don't think this guy should be touching, Brock Lesnar right now. And so it sounds weird because Bobby's a large man,
But so
but
yeah,
I don't know
he's
why
a
it
beefy
just
boy.
yeah, it just felt weird. It really did.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the what I used to always call the Roman Brock match, where it's it was spear,
Hmm.
German suplex, F5, spear, hurt lock, and that was pretty much the gist of the moves of the match. The match only went 6 minutes, which was the shortest match on the card, which again doesn't surprise me. Brock's paid by the minute apparently, so he wants to get his matches over quick so he can get that big money, make more money per minute.
Yep. And that Hurt
Uh,
Lock just looked silly there at the end.
it
That
did.
looked silly. That on Brock.
And the finish, like let's talk about the finish because
Mhm.
when we were sitting there when it happened, it almost looks like they were trying to do the Roddy Piper Bret Hart finish with the sleeper hold. Bret rolls through, pins Piper. The Bulldog Bret match from SummerSlam '92 had the same finish,
Yep.
but Brock never rolled through. And for a minute, I even looked at you and I was like, "Did they just botch the finish?" Because
Yep.
it looked like Lashley looked surprised. He was talking to the ref. Brock was talking to the ref.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if maybe it went a little premature, like Bobby wasn't sure what was going on. Maybe he didn't realize the ref had hit the one, so the 2, 3, he thought it was ready for a kick out. Um, and then, of course, he puts the Hurt Lock back on after the match to get his heat back. But that finish just seemed off and not a really good way to start the show.
I don't like it. I don't like from where you have these two guys going in. I actually had to ask you for the backstory because I was going to try to understand kind of more of where they were going to end up coming from in this match. When you Bobby and Brock feel like two guys that when I went out of it, they were two guys that they were going to be either pushing. I think Brock had stepped away at the time, but it felt like they were gonna start. They should be pushing these guys towards the top, especially when you start seeing the guys that are on this card. So the fact that you have the two of them running into it, it's like they're catapulting somebody. That's
Right.
what this is. Somebody is going to win this fight. They're going to win it definitively, or there's going to be some interference so that there can be another. Somebody's going to come in and change the complexion of the match, or something's going to happen. Is all you felt like was something's going to happen, and the ending of this match was literally the definition of nothing happened.
Yeah. And I kind of made a comment to you too. I was like, I just guess it depends on what they're going to do with Brock, what they plan on doing with Lashley afterwards. And my only thought is after this match is that we're going to get a run back at maybe Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, or maybe they'll try to hold off and maybe do a big Raw match or hold off and do WrestleMania because I don't really know where these two line up. It's weird to talk about WrestleMania, but it is November. We got Survivor Series in a few weeks with WWE. The Rumble's right around the corner, which means it's the heart of WrestleMania season, and Roman looks like he's on a collision course with The Rock. So where does that leave Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley with 3-4 months till WrestleMania? So I have a feeling we're going to run this back, and it may turn into a trilogy that culminates at WrestleMania. That's
Yeah.
always a possibility.
You know what a feud like this needs?
What's that?
Need a cage match.
Where the babyface tries to escape.
Yeah, where he tries to get away from him, of course. Running from Bobby Lashley, of course.
We'll get to that craziness here in a little bit. Before we go further, let me just remind everybody, Facebook.com/wrestling with fans is the Facebook page. Make sure you Hulk smash that like button. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/wrestling with fans. Or if you're using the YouTube app, just search Wrestling with Fans Podcast. Have a super click party on that subscribe button. Click the little bell if you want to be notified anytime a new video drops. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Wrestling with Fans, all one word. WrestlingWithFans.com. Download or stream the shows at any time, or you can take us on the go, get us to your favorite podcast listening device. Find us wherever you get your podcasts fixed. Just search Wrestling with Fans Podcast. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the majors, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Wrestling with Fans Podcast. Last but certainly not least, WWFshow@gmail.com is the email. If you have feedback, topics, questions, anything like that, you can DM us on social media or just shoot us an email. WWFshow@gmail.com. Moving on to match number 2. It was Damage Control versus Alexa Bliss and Asuka for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And I know you weren't the most impressed early on with these 4 ladies in this match.
I thought it was Bailey most of the time. We can go ahead and put that out there. Swore that Dakota was Bailey. I wasn't impressed because it felt so choreographed that I wasn't sure that any of these people had ever worked together ever. I think the only time it felt a little bit more organic was when you had EO in there and mixing it up with Asuka a few times. Looked really good. They looked like they worked well together. But I think there's something about it that I didn't really like that I don't think we didn't realize and talk to until the title match for the women. So we can talk about that then. But for the most part, I thought it looked good. I thought it was pretty clean. Um, and I think Alexa looks so much better every time I come back and watch her in a match. I think she looks like she's picked something up that she needed. She's so small, and it's hard for
Yeah.
somebody like her to be able to get her own moves over. And it was a nice change of pace to see her striking a little bit better. I thought, from what I
Yeah, when
remember.
she first came up, it was almost like she was afraid to be physical, whether that she was afraid she'd hurt somebody or hurt herself. But in the last several years, she's definitely upped her game as far as in ring performance. But I think you had made the comment early in the match; it looked over choreographed, and I totally believe that they were doing a lot of tandem stuff. And there's ways to do that where it doesn't look like you're out there performing. Where you're at, there's ways you can do it where it looks like you're actually trying to win a match. And there was a good section early on in that match where it felt like they were out there just performing a dance routine.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, I thought the ending was pretty good. Nikki Cross gets involved, attacks Alexa Bliss, allowing Dakota Kai to pick up the win. And Control is now your brand new women's tag team titles. The match goes 12 minutes, 50 seconds. What did you think of that ending with Nikki Cross coming in?
I thought it was good. It was exciting to see Nikki. And she was always a fun watch when I watched her before. The funny thing is I quit right before she brought out that superhero gimmick. So I never was a part of that. That everybody seemed to immediately start like, oh, this is interesting. And I think it lasted a month before everybody was telling
Yeah.
me how terrible it was. Um,
Yeah, be glad you missed out on Nikki ASH.
Yeah, but I'm a fan of hers. I like Nikki Cross. I always thought she was cool. I thought she was always part of like interesting teams. And I think she brings a different dynamic than what you see in other female wrestlers right now. Actually, kind of missing from males in WWE right now too. That kind of wild card, kind of crazy person.
Yeah, they don't really have one. I mean, maybe Bray Wyatt, which again we'll talk about that when we get to that segment of the show. But yeah, they don't really have that like that loose cannon, crazy, dark. You don't know what to expect from them kind of character right now. And I mean, I'm sure that's going to end up being Bray Wyatt's along the way. But for right now, they don't really have
That's
that
true.
character.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that was lacking from this show. I think that level of you're not going to expect that, but I think they save that to keep that on other pay per views that aren't the blood money pay per view.
Yeah, they don't want to give it all away, for the Saudi crowd and
Right.
all that stuff. Anything else you want to add on this one?
No, not really. I think when we talk about choreography, just to let people know, because everybody's going to say, of course, wrestling it's choreographed. That's what
Well,
it is.
yeah.
But when you see the difference between a normal match of 2, 3, 4, tag match versus like a ladder match, right? If you're watching a ladder match, it's completely step for step. Somebody standing there at the apron waiting for somebody to get up, and then they get up, and then they come in and do their spot, and that's what a obviously choreographed thing looks like. And I got that a
Right.
little bit from here, just without ladders, and that's what we mean when I say that.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy at times too, and it could just be the pressure of being in Saudi Arabia. It could be the
That's true.
pressure of they just don't have that much familiarity with each other.
Mhm.
I mean, there could be a lot of factors. So I don't want to like crucify them all for
Oh, of
one
course not.
mediocre match. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, all right.
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Like I don't want to I don't want to come off as saying like
No, no,
it
no.
was a show, but yeah, it was good. It was fine. It was fine. There were some limitations, I think, but yeah, like I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get. Well, I guess we could kind of talk about it briefly here for a second. The outfits just seem very
Yes.
constricting. We noticed that a lot with the Bianca Belair match later on. Of course, the ladies have to wear the full body suits, can't show anything but their heads, and I think that probably contributed to both women's matches kind of being eh.
Yeah, yeah. You had to alter your spots. People weren't moving the same way, and then it looked like you had to help a little bit through some of it. Yeah, that's what it felt like. The matches looked like they weren't paced as well as the male matches, and I think that's strictly because of the fact that they were wearing full body, tight body suits, and I don't know, it just didn't look like they were. It looked like they were dealing with a different restriction level than the male wrestlers were.
Yeah, and it's we even talked about it while watching too. You go back to the first women's match, Natalya and Lacey. They had the cat suits, but then they had these giant oversized
Yeah.
T-shirts because they had to cover their bodies, but they didn't want to show off their curves, so they were wearing these giant, massive T-shirts to hide that stuff. At least now, they are allowed to wear a more fitting attire to their, their character, even though it still has to be kind of like the full body cat suits.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we can talk more about that when we get to the Bianca match later on. So let's move to the next match. Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross. The match goes 13 minutes even. Now, I guess we'll start with the intros, because this was the first time we got to look at the drones.
Oh, wow.
And I can sum this match up in 4 words. That is a sword. That would be a soundbite on this show forever. Like, if you watched, like they had for Karrion Kross, they had drones with the lights and like a light show in the sky. Karrion Kross, they had the hourglass with the sand kind of ticking through, a very cool visual. Drew comes out, there's a big sword what's on fire, and Michael Cole's like, well, that's a sword.
It's a sword. God bless Michael Cole, man. He will never let you down.
At least it's not Boss Time or the Big Dog, but it's a sword.
It's the big dog.
That is a sword.
He still could have yelled that at the end. He could have said, "That's the big dog," and Logan.
Oh, God, I'm glad we didn't get that. That would have ruined the show. That'd have been a big FU at the end of the show there. But
both the intros also outside of the drones, like the drones were spectacular, but the intros themselves. I mean, Karrion looks great. He really does. I like the way that they came down, the lighting and the colors and everything. Scarlett's amazing. And then, McIntyre's intro is always pretty cool with the large sword and stuff. It's something that's not being done elsewhere. So for now, it's very different. But yeah, I enjoyed them all together. I thought these were probably one of the better pairs of intros for the show.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I talk about a lot with Karrion Kross. This is the same entrance he had in NXT, the black and white, the music, Scarlett doing her thing. And then, the red strobe there at the end, when the climax because of the entrance. But when they brought him up to the main roster, they took all that away from him. They saddled him with this gladiator gimmick. They took everything away that made this guy cool. Like, Karrion Kross is a good wrestler. He's a good big man. He's very good at what he does. But when you take away all those extra things, it leaves a lot to be desired. And I think that is part of what happened in his previous run on the main roster. And it could be, you even made a comment that it could be, Vince punishing him for something.
Being too cool.
Yep. So he comes back, Triple H takes charge of creative. He comes back, brings him back into the fold. And other than, like I said, it took me a little while to get used to him having hair. I'm so used to him being bald.
Yeah.
That, he's kind of back to where he originally should have been the first time around. But, I really enjoy this match, except for the ending, which we'll talk about here in a sec. So, anything else you want to add about the actual match itself?
Well, the thing that we talked about the most, right? It was probably the best match you could never see. It was cut, and it was cutting so much behind the metal, the metal fencing. It was cutting so much that the fence was distracting from everything. It was so hard to even see. And then even with that, some of the high impact moves. I mean, this was pretty technical. It felt good, and like everything looked good. The moves were high impact, and they looked great. And you get really excited when you see these kinds of things. But unfortunately, it was hard to see. And then, unfortunately, of course, with it being a cage match, it just seemed like a good portion of when we get momentum and we can get something going has to slow down so that you can see somebody try to escape their opponent, which is what it is. I mean, so
Yeah, like I told you earlier, like that was my biggest gripe with the matches.
mm,
I like cage matches. Pin there for a while. They took the escape the cage option out as either pinfall or submission, which is totally fine.
mm-hmm,
But when your big baby face, Drew McIntyre, put the entire company on his back throughout the pandemic. For 2 years, he was the man. And for him to get a win by escaping the cage, for me personally, it's like that just kind of brings him down a peg and makes him not seem as much of a man. It's like, well, you guys have been beefing for like 3 months now. You get this cage match and you want to win by running away.
mm,
I, I don't get it. Like, I don't know why. Like, I get Drew winning's fine. Like, Karrion Kross should have been trying to escape to get away once he realized he couldn't beat Drew. And he was. Scarlett got involved with the mace and all that other stuff.
mm-hmm.
But for Drew to win by escaping, to me just seems like a cheap victory for someone who had been as dominant as Drew McIntyre over the last few years.
Right, yep, yeah, and Drew coming out, the sword, the sword.
It's
He
a
was carrying a sword.
sword.
There was a giant sword in the sky. You're like, he's the man. And he gets in there and he's like, I gotta get out.
Yeah, I got to run.
I gotta run.
Oh man, let's see. Just looking to see if I got any other notes. The big superplex off the top of the cage looked really awesome,
Really
and
good.
that was all Drew McIntyre holding, carrying Cross up. That looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
The camera cuts we talked about. I know there was a few times during the match where we actually we set a timer for a minute and
Yep.
counted camera cuts. And, at one point, I think it was like 30 in a minute.
You
So
had
you're like
30 and
every
I had 25
second.
on another one. Yep.
It's crazy, like how much. And, that's a Kevin Dunn thing. And that's something
Yep.
he's been really hard on for a while. And I just wish they could just have a nice steady cam, especially for a cage match, because the cameras have to focus through the tiny little chain links.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already difficult as it is to see and get good shots. And then you want to keep cutting back and forth. I'm surprised more people don't have seizures after watching, 3 hours of wrestling at night.
Yep. I mean, and as small and and out of the way as you can make cameras. I mean, you can't tell me that you can't put them on the corner of those cages shooting in so that you get good corner shots and you can
Mm-hmm.
do like 30 seconds of action without it becoming a problem. Then you got to keep going around the ring to show the different angles
Right.
of slams and things. I
They
just
used to mount cameras up in the corners. I
mm-hmm.
remember there was a time like they had opposite corners, they had cameras.
Oh my
Um,
God! Could you imagine if there was a camera above that superplex from the top of the cage in there? Could you
that
imagine if
was
there was a
good.
camera up there that watched him pull carrying off the top there and slam him? That would have been a great angle.
Yep, that looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on here because up next we have the big 6-man match.
Yeah.
It was Judgment Day. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio with Rhea Ripley taking on the OC, AJ Styles, and the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson. The match goes 14 minutes even. Judgment Day picking up the win. What did you think? I'll let you lead this one.
I, I almost want to talk about individuals because I wasn't aware of Judgment Day, right? This is the first time I'm watching Judgment Day. And I'm watching Finn Balor, and Finn Balor's great. He's going up against AJ Styles and the OC. Everything that they're going to do is going to be match of the night kind of work because they know each other. They could do it for any combination of the four of them could do it for 60 minutes. Um, and then Damian Priest is very good. I like seeing him with the big men. I like seeing him do those kinds of things. That's fun. Um, but the problem for me, the interesting part for me is Dominic Mysterio. I thought was I thought that he came in with a lot of momentum, right? So Dominic Mysterio looks great. He comes in against Seth Rollins, and then I take a little bit of a break from wrestling, and then here's Dominic is just he's thrown into this group where he's a small part of them of these two much larger parts in Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and he's kind of overshadowed. It almost felt like he was like the extra person out there, like like Dominic was the extra part of all five of them in the match, who was just going to be the guy that gets flipped, gets knocked outside. He comes in and then loses momentum for his side. He kind of felt like the guy that was out of place. So I think overall, I thought the match was really good, but it felt really slow whenever Dominic Mysterio was out there.
Yeah, to me, Dominic's always felt weird in Judgment Day. I know, like you said, this is your first real introduction to him.
Mm-hmm.
He just always seemed out of place. Like
Yeah.
but I mean, I've really enjoyed the stuff with him and Rhea. You know, the kind of the Dom sub kind of thing. So it's been kind of cool for that. But he doesn't fit like that gothic vibe like Finn and Damian Priest give off and Rhea Ripley
Oh,
give
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it's just he's not as believable. I mean, some of his promos lately have been really good. Like he's been getting like Vicky Guerrero level heat. Like he's been killing it on the mic, but as far as just the overall persona,
Yeah.
yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, but even looking at this match, how long have the OC been doing it? How long is AJ Styles? How long is Finn Balor? How long is Damian Priest? And then here's Dominic playing the young guy, playing the sub to Rhea, playing just not as good as everybody. And that's basically his character right now, is not being as good a wrestler as the other people in the ring. And that's just a weird character to play.
I mean, he's still young. I mean, let me pull. He's
Right.
only like 20.
When he was brand new when I stopped watching. That was when he was with Rey Mysterio.
He's only 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, at 25, you have like what, maybe 3-4 years in the business at
He's big
most.
too. Mm-hmm. He's big too.
Yeah, I mean, his dad Ray is a small guy. Dominic's got him, a lot of size on him. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Eddie Guerrero was his dad. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the ladder match won the contract.
Briefcase for who's Dominic's daddy. That was an interesting storyline, but
that whole pay-per-view was a mess.
yeah,
That was the same one where Kurt Angle beat up Eugene too, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere in that. It was at least in that same era, like that same little window of time.
I'm pretty sure that was the exact same pay-per-view. It was the weirdest set of matches of just, I don't know. We could watch that one time. That's
that would be
hilarious run of just terrible matches.
The other thing I want to point out from the match, right at this top, Michael Cole name dropped the Bullet Club, which to my knowledge has never happened on WWE TV. AJ and Uncle Allen were both former leaders of the Bullet Club. Finn Balor, the original leader. The Good Brothers, of course, longtime members of the Bullet Club, and they're kind of fractured and all over different promotions. But I thought that was interesting that they did name drop the Bullet Club, and they did talk a lot about Carl Anderson's time in Japan, Luke Gallows' time in Japan, their world travels, which in years past, WWE never acknowledged anything outside of WWE. So it's nice to see that they're acknowledging, they may not name drop New Japan or AEW or anything like that, but they're at least acknowledging that these, performers do other things outside of WWE.
Right. They almost don't have a choice anymore, right? As long as, because now they have to get into the same game of poaching talent, either taking the talent back or getting talent from other promotions at this point, because they've let so much go. Triple H has got to get it all back.
And so far, he's already started to bring a lot of guys back into the fold, which is a good segue because we'll move on to the next one.
Yep.
Braun Strowman, Omos. The match goes 7 minutes, 20 seconds. It was longer than the Brock and Bobby Lashley match, if you can believe that. Two giants. We weren't really in the cockpit to watch this. We were kind of watching this one from afar. We did catch the ending. I really don't know what you do with two guys of this size. We had kind of talked about this as the match was going on. You got guys, Omos is a legit 7-footer. Braun is very close to 7 foot. Braun does have pretty good mobility for a man his size. He is an athlete.
Oh, yeah.
And Omos, as much as he tries, when you're that big, your mobility is extremely limited. And it really showed in this match. Where it was like slap, punch. And they did get into a few body slams later in the match, but it was basically just slaps and elbows and punches for the longest time.
Yeah.
I'll give him
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, for me it was the big slowdowns with like the chokes. I'm choking you. I'm blocking the choke. It's like it's like I'm gonna punch you. It's like, yeah, but that didn't hurt me. It's like everything was so inconsequential that it doesn't feel like anything. And then he hits Braun, and Braun falls down, and you just go, Braun's been knocked down before. Like, this shouldn't mean anything. The match felt so slow for the
Yeah.
parts that we watched that it leads up to the ending.
Yeah, I mean, Braun caught him with the power slam, which, I mean, Braun's a massive dude, and he picked Omos up pretty easily. Omos picked Braun up pretty easily. So, these guys are these big, massive human beings, and Braun hits a big power slam, picks up the win, which is probably the right thing. Omos, when Braun got released originally, Omos was the only giant, and I think in Vince's eyes, he could get more out of Omos than he ever could out of Braun, and that was probably one of those instant karma regret kind of moments. But obviously Triple H brought him back into the fold after his create your narrative thing. That's whatever you want to call it.
EC3 or
with EC3, which I've heard some things about, but we'll save that for another time.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't get to see it yet, so I'd be interested.
But yeah, I don't think there's really much more we could say about anything. You want to add on this one?
No, there's nothing to say. Punch, fall, punch, get up, run, jump into each other, fall, slam.
That's pretty much it. Next is the unified, undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. Jay and Jimmy the Usos defending against Ridge Holland and Pete Dunne. I refuse to call him by the other name. The Brawling Brutes. The match goes 10 minutes and 45 seconds, which was a surprisingly short match. Like, that match felt like it went a lot longer. Usos picking up the win via pinfall. And I only wrote 4 words for this match. 5 words. I can't even count. 5 words. I wrote 5 words for this match. This is tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
It's a great match.
Oh my God, yes. I wrote 7 words. Coward heels are trash, and then great match. So.
Yeah, no, they're at the beginning. The Usos kind of maybe like a minute into the match, they grab the belts, acting like they're going to hightail it. Pete Dunne comes out, hits the running knee off the side, and that was the last time. And in hindsight, that made absolutely no sense.
No, they didn't even bring a sweat, and they were time to go.
Yeah, and they never even tried. Like, I would get it if later on in the match they tried it again, and then maybe at the end of the match they tried it again. But they did it once, like a minute into the match, and then that was really the end of it. So in retrospect, it made absolutely no sense, and I kind of agree with you on that one.
Yeah, even if he did like a limb grab, like he starts playing with his fingers and then did the jump on him, and then the guy got out and he tried to grab the belt and run because his arm was stung or something. I mean, anything would have made sense except for them to just roll out, grab the belts, and then go, I don't feel like resting today. Who cares? Yeah,
they only had a couple lockups, so it was weird for them to just like, yeah, that's right, we're out.
If Roman would have come out and made them get back into the ring, then that's a story to tell. But something else has to happen. It's just cowardly heel. Like, hair, something for you to boo is basically what it is. It just, I don't like it. I don't like it. But the match was great overall. Great.
Yeah, nothing like a good chicken shit heel moment to start off a match.
Yeah, it's start off a match. Yeah.
And I got like birds are having a field day outside my window right now.
Animals.
Anyway. Yeah. All right, so we'll move on. We only got 2 more matches to go here. We got the Raw Women's Championship match. It was a last woman standing match. Bianca Belair defending against Bayley. The match goes 20 minutes, 20 seconds. And this was a tale of there were several different elements in this match. Some worked, some did not. I mean, at the beginning, I thought the match was great. I thought they had a pretty good start introducing some of the hardcore stuff. That spot where Bayley did not break the table. I fully expect to see that on the next episode of Botchamania. I'll be looking forward to the table memes with that one. And then the golf cart stuff. The golf cart stuff. You had a lot to say about the golf cart stuff.
Oh, my God. That was just silly. Just blazing around that corner, right? She comes out at high speed, and Bianca had to fake and then realize she started too early, so she had to fake again. And then she stopped the cart in front of Bianca. So Bianca just steps aside and then reaches. It was like, that was silly. The cart should have been driven out, and then she took her and then threw her through the front or something. Like, that would have been fine. But if you're going that slow, you have to know that looks terrible. You have to know.
Yeah.
Someone watched them do that and practice that and went, you know what? That's bad. Like someone's going to think that's bad. Let's not do it that way. And then they were like, no, we're going to do it anyway. So, so that spot was bad. The top was going to cave in. But from there, bringing her down on the roof, I changed my mind about it. I thought that was kind of neat. I was hoping for a break slam and then her go into the ring, but I forgot that the table was right there. So, yeah.
Yeah, they were moving so slow and moving that golf cart around. It kind of took, and I even made a comment to you. It definitely wasn't like Matt Hardy, Sammy Guevara levels of golf cart spots.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were moving so slow. It kind of took away from the potential danger of, what could happen. Because I was fully expecting something crazy to happen, and it never really did. So, it's one of those, they tried. It didn't quite work out, I think, the way they probably had originally planned it out to work like. The other thing I wrote on this match, the finish. I like the finish with the ladder spot. I don't think I've ever seen that type of ladder spot finish with a last, person standing match to trap her in the ladder, then trap the edge of the ladder under the bottom rope so she couldn't lift up. And I thought it was really innovative. I don't know what producer came up with it, but I thought that was a pretty good finish.
Yeah. It's almost amazing to find out that a person fits in the ladder sandwiched between them and then under the buckle. It's almost like somebody saw in a match and they were like, I wonder if someone could do that. And then that's how you end up with the spot.
Yeah,
yeah, they can.
Most guys, most of the men, the male talent, they're not gonna fit. They could probably. I've seen them where they've sandwiched them in the ladder and then done like a splash or something. But to be able to get it close enough to get it under that bottom rope, I don't know many of the men who would be able to make that happen. So kudos to whichever producer came up with that spot to the finish. Right. I thought that was pretty damn good.
And it was a great ending because one of the parts that I'd mentioned before that I thought was worth talking about is the fact that they're lightweights, right? These aren't heavy women, so it's almost like when you watch a lightweight boxing match and they just aren't going to knock each other out, right? It's just not going to happen. So you're going to have to outwit each other, and that's what this whole match was trying to trap each other under stuff. So the whole match was never to try to knock the person out, to it, almost not at all, right? It was in the box. It was under the stairs. It was under the ladder. It just felt like that's all it was I'm going to outsmart this person. And then, in the end, that's what ends up winning it. A very inventive, there's no way you're getting out of this kind of spot. And I thought it was really cool.
Yep, definitely a good finish. Before we got to the main event, we did get the Bray Wyatt appearance. He comes out, he cuts a very passionate promo. The crowd is behind him, and then we get another interruption from Uncle Howdy to finish off the segment. Now, this is the first time you've seen Bray since he's been back.
Yep.
Now, what are your thoughts on? I know you only have very little to go about. You got like 2 minutes of Bray promo to go off of, but what are your thoughts on Bray now that you've seen him since he's been back?
I think it was too. It was a really bad time for this promo. I think if this comes in the middle, I think then you're seeing it like, whoa, you just caught me off guard. If this came after Drew and Carrion, or a spot that's not the finish, right? Because this is a really long point. And people think that people have moved away from Bray Wyatt, right? They moved into the Fiend. They loved the Fiend, the lights, the mask, the everything that was, right? But all that's gone. We're back to the Bray Wyatt from before that right now. This is the Bray Wyatt that always took 4 or 5 minutes to get to the ring, and people were bored by the time he got there.
Right.
So we're back to that now. This is that Bray Wyatt. So by the time he gets out there, stopping our main event, right? Everybody's waiting for Roman and Paul, and he's shut down the main event to come out to talk about how he's not bringing back the Fiend. It's like, whoa, that's almost a heel promo at that point, right? You're not going to bring back the thing that everybody wanted. But then it gets long, and then he keeps going. And then you're like, okay, and then we got another character that comes out that has his voice, which is either going to be Bo Dallas, which could be cool, or it's going to be himself, which you go, we're going to do this again, huh?
Yeah, it's just another mask. I mean, if nothing else, people love Bray Wyatt. Like the Saudi crowd loved Bray. They popped hard for Bray. They were giving him chance throughout the promo. They were very loud throughout the promo. So I mean, and I even said this to you earlier too. I was like, it's cool that he's back, but it's like, now what? Like, I'm waiting to see what happens. Like, it's cool to have him come out and cut these promos. He's got these new characters, kind of play-ons of, when he finally made his debut last month at the pay-per-view, there were like human-sized versions of all of his, Firefly Funhouse characters, scattered throughout the crowd before he made his way out. It's like, okay, so we've kind of playing off of the old stuff, but there's like a new look, or we just putting a fresh coat of paint on, are we putting, a new chandelier in an abandoned house kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing because it's something different. It's not, the same old thing, but it's not completely different. It's kind of like a mix of both. So I'm kind of like in that camp of, let's see what happens in a month. And I always go back to my point with the Fiend, and I made this point on the show a lot, is the Fiend was awesome. I love the character of the Fiend. I love the presentation. And the first thing I said after the first Fiend promo is, what do they do in the ring?
No.
Once you get in the ring, then what? And that's where WWE dropped the ball. Now, I don't know if that's a Vince thing, a Bray thing, a creative thing, a producer's thing, or a mix of all of them. But once the Fiend got in the ring, that's when you lost it, because there's only so much you could do. He even said in the promo today, once I put that mask on, I didn't feel any pain anymore. Well, yeah, obviously, because we all remember the debacle. It was at 2019 Hell in a Cell, 2019, I think it was.
Yeah,
like that disaster. And, there's only so many things you could do with that Fiend. So it's like the character's cool, the look. Like, I mean, I have like 4 Fiend wrestling figures. Like, I loved the Fiend. Like you got your pop there. I've got my Fiend pop up here on the wall.
Yeah.
But like once you got him in the ring, then what? And I hate to say that I'm back to that point, but I'm back to that point of, cool, we got, Uncle Howdy, we got Bray Wyatt back. Now what? What happens when he gets in the ring?
So my question to you is, I know you said that this is all new. This doesn't feel like Bray and Sister Abigail. Like, this doesn't feel a little bit like the person behind the curtains while Bray is taking on his new cult persona and stepping out from it, and then is kind of drawn back in, and then now we're on that struggle between him and that persona.
I mean, it very well could be. Like I said, I think it's some new stuff. I think it's a remix of some old stuff. And I think, and there was a lot of, with the dirt sheets and all that stuff, they would say, Vince never got Bray Wyatt. Like, he was difficult to work with creatively. And that's what you read a lot over the last year since he got released. And someone as creative and outside of the box thinking as Bray Wyatt is, I could fully understand how someone could think that he's not easy to work with, that he's difficult to work with. I could understand that. And I think with him coming back, with a different person leading creative like Triple H, with probably some new writers. They have someone who's in charge. I can't think of his name. I talked about it like 2 weeks ago on the show, who's in charge of long-term creative, where he keeps notes about these long-term storylines, so they have these points to go to later on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what happens when it gets in the ring? Like, are we going to get another masked character? Like, is that masked Uncle Howdy going to be Bray's new Fiend? Are we going to get, there was talk of his Twitter was Wyatt 6. So are you going to get Bray Wyatt with 5 other people kind of taking on the personas of like the Firefly Funhouse characters, Ramblin' Rabbit, the Buzzard, Sister Abigail, Uncle Howdy? Like, are we going to get, a stable with other performers representing those characters, those parts of his personality? Like, I'm curious, but at the same time, it's, what are you going to do so this actually doesn't turn into another Fiend where we have red lights and no selling for months on end?
Yeah. And the other part of that also, like you just said, if it's, with the Fiend, it's what do you do in the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of overdid him and threw a title on him, and then you're like, well, we can never do this again, right? Immediately. But what do you do with a family of Fiends?
Yeah.
What do you do with 6 of them, right?
What do you mean? Are they going to be supernatural? Like the Fiend was, where, they put the mask on and he's all of a sudden, invincible.
Set him on fire.
Yeah, I mean, they booked themselves in a corner. They had Goldberg squash him in like 10 seconds. Randy Orton murdered him via fire. So, I mean, like, while the characters are fun and it's a great presentation, it's entertaining. It can suck you into this world. Because I know you hadn't seen it, but for weeks leading up to his re-debut, they'd have little QR codes flash on the screen, which would take you down these rabbit holes on the internet to different websites. So there's this whole, Easter egg hunt for
Very cool.
weeks before it came out, which was awesome. Kind of reminded me of what they did with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War with their marketing campaign. Very intricate, detailed, sends you down rabbit holes and stuff like that. It was really good, but now that he's back, he's in the ring, then what? And that's still the thing, is like, now what? Who does he feud? Like, you can't put him back against Roman, because it's just gonna end badly, one way or the other. And like, what do you do with them? So I
Braun,
just,
Bobby Lashley.
yeah. I mean, what do you do? And at that point, it's, again, he has by himself. She's got a group. Like, I'm just kind of like sitting back. Obviously, I'm very opinionated about it, but it's like, I'm just gonna sit back and wait and see how things unfold over the next couple months, and hopefully, it's something a lot better than what we got last time with the Fiend.
Yeah, I don't see them coming out with 6, but for them to come out with him with 6 different personas and you don't know which one is going to show up for a match, I mean, that could be something.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to finding out what exactly they plan on doing. So, and I think we've talked more about this promo than we have about any other match on this card, which I think is very telling of what went down. But let's dive into the main event. It was the match for the undisputed WWE Blue Universal Championship. The big dog, the tribal chief, acknowledge him, Roman Reigns, defending against Logan Paul. The match goes 24 minutes and 50 seconds, so just shy of 25 minutes. The longest match on the card. And I'll let you, because this is your first time really seeing this kind of version of Roman, so I'm really curious what your take is on what you thought of this new tribal chief Roman Reigns, like this kind of match.
It's a tale of two matches, right? So I'll just start with match 1, right? Match 1 is Roman comes out, kind of toys with him. We get some, we see that Logan Paul has a lot of agility, and a lot of the moves and things he did were very impressive. They looked very good, but obviously he's not in a class with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is going to toy with him for the most part, and that made it sort of fun to watch for me. I like to be able to see Roman kind of dominating the way that he should be, the way a 2-year champion would be. And the other thing before we move on that drives me completely nuts is the it can't be called one lucky punch if you hit it all the time on everyone.
Right?
At that point, it's just a punch.
Yeah, they play that up in all the promos throughout the day, and then they really played it up hardcore in the vignettes before the match, and they played it up even more during the entrances and throughout the entirety of the match itself. Like, that's all Michael Cole talked about. This is a sword, and the one lucky punch.
This is a sword.
That is a sword.
Yeah,
that is a sword.
Oh, something different. Something different's the other thing. Remember, there's something different. There's something different about Roman. I've said it all week. I looked at Roman, and there's something different. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why is there something different? This is always the same. Why is there something different?
And he tried to make the Buster Douglas comparison. Like, come on, man. Buster Douglas was a virtual nobody, defeating arguably one of the top 5 boxers of all time in a fluke win. That Logan Paul defeating Roman Reigns in a fake professional wrestling match, it's not the same. But we got this. He was right about one thing. Something was different. We had a crap. I just that we didn't have Sammy, which I was kind of disappointed. I was very disappointed. I was hoping we were going to get Sammy.
Very much.
Kind of the same vein. You hadn't seen the Uzi promo.
No.
Real quick, what were your thoughts on that promo from last week's SmackDown? He's not feeling very Uzi.
Oh my God. It's one of my favorite promos, right? It goes up there with Kurt's sexy boy. It's like
sexy Kurt.
Yep, sexy Kurt. There's just some promos that I think that'll get stuck in my head from time to time, and I can't imagine thinking about this for the next month. It's hilarious, and the reaction from everybody around them, and that's when you know you've got a good moment, right? Is when no one can stand themselves anymore, right? Our truth breaking Brock Lesnar that one
That
time,
was great.
Undertaker breaking Brock Lesnar with the eyes, right? There's just it's so funny when these things happen because they're kind of real moments, and it reminds you that nobody. There are times when people can't. They're real people behind characters, and when those people can't control themselves anymore, that's when you know you've hit something. And
Right.
Sammy broke three like professionals at the top of their game. He broke them with one line and reduced them to children. They couldn't even work anymore. They
Yeah.
at that point completely could not work anymore.
You see Jimmy Uso standing behind everybody, like
Yep.
he's just like looking around, like covered his mouth up, like when you can pop the boys on
Mm-hmm.
live television and make them break character, you are on to something. And
Mm-hmm. What was Jay was doing the
yeah, the and he tries to turn his back. Ro's like, nah, you stay right here. Like even Roman was cracking up. Like
he laughed the whole time. He didn't
I
even
mean, you
stop
couldn't see Paul Heyman or Solo Sikoa's reaction, but I can only imagine. Like Solo Sikoa is very stoked, like he's. But
himself.
I'm wondering, like, I'd love to know if he even kind of like broke a grin out or something, just something a little crazy there, because yeah, that
Yeah.
because I had talked it up and I finally
Oh,
I
it's
pulled it
good.
up and showed it to like, man, you got to see this, like, because you love Sami Zayn and
Love him.
this.
Yeah.
I was like, Sammy and the Bloodline is the best thing going in WWE right now.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
And you were kind of like, no, no, I didn't really like it at first. Like, no, let me show you this promo from the other week, and you probably change your mind. And that's
Yep. Now I want to go back and watch a lot of it. Yeah.
so that you can just watch like on like their WWE on Fox YouTube channel. They have like a lot of the promos up, and they're just the stuff that Sammy does. Like he pops the guys. Like there's one, I think one of them he talked about like Waffle House, and one of the users kind of like cracked up laughing, like what the fuck. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's been some of my favorite stuff on TV.
Man, that's
Um,
awesome, dude.
but
It was good.
the other, let's get back to the actual match here. So we're getting a little long here. I don't want to go more than an hour. We're getting close. Roman's entrance was 5.5 minutes. I timed it. 5 minutes and 30 seconds for his entrance. I put down a note standard Roman match, and I even said this throughout the match. Is like he's gonna, Logan will fire up, he'll cut him off. He'll do a comeback, he'll cut him off. Come back, cut him off. Like that. That's how I could see that match going. That's how a lot of Roman's matches has gone lately.
Mhm.
I didn't like the fact of all the interference at the end. I get why they did it. They brought Jake Paul in, they brought the Usos in, they brought Solo Sikoa in, but no Sammy. I get why they did it, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of that ending. So,
I,
any other
I,
thoughts you have on that one?
I don't know. It's a hard thing for me to talk about because it's a lot of what should never happen. This is why you should not take a guy like Paul and put him in a match with a guy that you've built up to be the best guy your sport has to offer, right? This is the best guy. This is Roman Reigns, tribal chief, blah, blah, blah. But you're taking him from the top and you're going Paul, who has had, what, was it 2 matches going into this?
Yeah, this is his third match.
This is his third wrestling match, and it's up against your best person that you have to offer. And he toyed with him, hit him, Superman punch, put him on the table, got a camera phone, took some pictures with people, had a drink, then looked at him again. He just laid there the whole time. This is your guy. He's just laying there like he's a nobody. Gets up, does more crowd stuff, more pictures, gets up onto the turnbuckle, more pictures, then does a selfie with the thing, then looks at Roman, then looks back at himself before he jumps. This is like 5 minutes of the match is
Mm-hmm.
Roman Reigns just laying there pathetic because Logan Paul hit him twice? I don't like it. I don't
The
like
only
it. It
way,
doesn't
and
leave a good taste in my mouth.
I'm not, trying to justify, but I think the only way you could feasibly explain that is Roman didn't take him seriously at all. That he thought he was a joke. So anytime Jake got any offense, it kind of caught Roman off guard, and he may have sold it a little bit. Like I get what you're saying, and I do agree with you, but I think what they might have been going for was Roman didn't take him seriously. So anything Jake did just put Roman down, like he's not used to taking any offense. But yeah, it still seemed The only thing is, I am curious to see that video, the selfie video of jumping off through the table. Like, I want to see that. I think that'll be pretty fun to look at. But yeah,
Yeah.
they did kind of clown Roman a little bit. Like he did seem kind of weak. But I think Roman too, also in the last 2 years plus that he's been champ, has had more cerebral matches than what we used to get, like with his matches with Goldberg and his matches with Brock and his matches with Seth.
Was a much better wrestler.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was actually wrestling. Now it's more
Oh,
cerebral.
yeah.
He's telling, a physical story in the ring. And, not a lot of people like that. And there's a lot of people that haven't liked Roman's matches lately. I've enjoyed most of them, not all of them, but most of them when they're telling these kind of stories. But I could see where it would turn a lot of people off when, you come in, someone like you who hadn't watched in a while. Roman's built as the GOAT. Then he this is the performance he gives.
Yeah.
A little weird, but he caught him there at the end. He is still your reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Champion. So overall, Rick, what if you would give the entirety of Dirty Saudi Blood Money 5 a letter grade, A through F? What would you give it?
All right. So if we're looking at the good, right? We're looking at the Usos match. We're looking at the cage match. Those are really good. The women's matches are probably your middle rung, and then everything else just kind of okay. I think from there, so nothing really sunk the show. I don't think. I think that Bray Wyatt was a little bit out of place, so the pacing wasn't very good. So I think that was part of what might have brought my grade down for the last match. But I'd say overall, I don't think you could give it less than maybe a C. But yeah, that's probably where I would put it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was very watchable. I thought it was very average. And I thought there were good matches that brought up anything that would have brought the show down.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm in the middle of the road. I'm going to give it a C plus.
Mm-hmm.
The women to me were the lower points, and normally I'm a big. If anybody who's watched the show for a while knows, I love me some modern women's wrestling, and normally I put them above some of the guys' matches because I think they work a lot harder. But I think in this case, whatever the reasoning, like I don't know what it was, but both ladies' matches seemed a little off. Braun and Omos was a low point. Both women's matches were a low point. I thought the finish of the Brock Bobby match to start gave the show a weird vibe off the jump, but it got better as the night went on. Like there were highs and you kind of come down and back up down, which is what you want in a match. You don't want it to all go up. You don't want it to all go down. You want a little ebbs and flows to give fans a break. But yeah, I'd probably give it a C plus, kind of like right there in the middle of the road. Not quite great, not bad. Just it was a real fun show to watch, and being able to enjoy watching with another wrestling fan made it. I think that's probably where the plus came for me is I haven't been able to. I don't watch like Jen will watch with me sometimes. The wife watches, but she's not really into it like she used to be, even a couple years ago. Yeah. So it's nice to have that someone to play off of and talk about, even with doing the show. And I think that's where I got a little bit more enjoyment out of just having another like fan to watch and enjoy the show with, which I haven't been able to do for a while. So. Thanks for coming by earlier, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again soon, very soon.
Oh, definitely. So one more time before we get ready to wrap up here, plug your stuff. Right. Those watching live, there are no links, but when it goes on YouTube, for your YouTube people and the audio people, links to your YouTube channel, all that stuff will be down in the audio and video description below. So we'll make sure we plug all that stuff to have everybody check you out on the socials and whatnot.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, Rick Ham on YouTube, Ham reviews, and then we got Gamic Nerdia on Twitch and Gamic Nerdia on YouTube as well.
So yep, make sure we put all those links on there. So Rick, thank you. He lives right up the street. We were going to try to do it here in the studio, but I think if this worked out a little bit better, you're in your space, me here at mine, because it would have been a little cramped with us two boys in one room. But
beefy boys.
Yes, two beefy boys slapping meat, talking wrestling. Oh yeah. All right. Also, before we go, Facebook.com/wrestling with fans. Hulk smash that like button to keep up to date with things going on here with the podcast. YouTube.com/wrestling with fans, or if you're on the YouTube app, just search Wrestling with Fans podcast. Click the logo, super click that subscribe button. You can click the bell if you want to be notified anytime a new video goes up. Check us out on the web, wrestlingwithfans.com. New audio shows drop every single Sunday at midnight. You can download or stream the shows at any time over on the website, or you can take us on the go, download us to your favorite podcast listening device. Get us wherever you get your podcast fix. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all the majors. Just search Wrestling with Fans Podcast. You can follow on Instagram and TikTok at Wrestling with Fans. I have Twitter, but I don't promote it because I don't really use Twitter other than just reading stuff, so I don't ever plug that for those that always ask. And, of course, wwfshow@gmail.com is email. That's wwfshow@gmail.com. But I think that's going to wrap it up. This is the longest show I've done in a while. We're an hour and 2 minutes of recording, so it'll probably be about an hour or so by the time I edit and add music back in. So, sure. Rick, it was a lot of fun. Appreciate you coming through, hanging out, and we're going to get back together here in a little bit this evening, grab some food. But I would love to have you back anytime you're available. We'll do some more stuff. He's got a lot of cool stuff, so make sure you check out him on Twitch, YouTube. Like I said, all of the links to his socials and YouTube channels will be in the video description below, the audio description for those listening to the audio show when it drops. But thank you again, Rick, and I will talk to you here in a few minutes. But until next time, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Once again, my name is Kyle. We'll see you next time right here on Wrestling with Fans.